We play for rings in the desert. Yeah.
What's that?
Hello, and welcome to the TPP for your and my Arizona Diamondbacks, the 8th ranked team by you, the people. How about it? And the DirecTV Rewind segment. If you're ready to transform your baseball watching experience, head to directv.com/JohnBoy or scan the QR code on the screen to learn more. My Snakes, 89 wins last year. Good. Missed the playoffs on the last day of the season. They limped down the stretch a little bit. The offense never really did. First in runs scored. Me and Trev get a little old school with the kids sometimes. That's a stat we like a lot. We like that a lot. They were second in OPS, first in on-base percentage, second in batting average. The pitching stats, though, told a different story. 27th in starting pitcher ERA. What? 25th in bullpen ERA. They ended up having a great run differential. They scored a lot. They gave up some runs. Coming off the World Series year the year before, a tough way to not make the postseason. Trev, who'd they bring in?
They brought in a big dog. One of our favorites, Moxie King, I'd call him as well. Okay. Corbin Burnes signs with the Diamondbacks, 6 years, $210 million. He has an opt-out after 2026, which is interesting. But he's the ace. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball from Arizona. The Snakes land him. That sent shockwaves through all of Major League Baseball and, bolstered what we consider already one of the better pitching stats when healthy out there. So he comes in and is just an absolute menace. They also brought in Kendall Graveman to a 1-year, $1.35 million deal. They traded for Josh Naylor with the Guardians. They acquired him for Slade Ciccone and a competitive balanced round B draft pick. I don't know. I guess that's the only draft picks you can trade are the competitive round picks. Gray Kessinger comes in from Houston. He's an infielder. We'll get some depth there. A bunch of minor league deals. Shelby Miller, Garrett Hampson, Trey Mancini is there. Christian Pache, Talkin baseball legend. They also exercised a few options, re-signed guys. They re-signed that endearingly Randall Grichuk. They gave Geraldo Perdomo an extension for the young shortstop there. Eugenio Suarez, they picked up his club option. They picked up Merrill Kelly's club option. And also Jordan Montgomery picked up his player option. So a lot of parts in or back, but they also lost some significant players, Jake, and who were those?
So a couple big ones. Christian Walker, first baseman extraordinaire, one of the most exciting free agents of this offseason. He ended up signing with Houston. Two-way first baseman, had an argument as the best two-way first baseman. He gone. Jock Peterson, DH extraordinaire. He signed with the Texas Rangers. He balled out last year, 151 OPS plus. Paul Sewald on the back end of the bullpen. He gone. Josh Bell, who came in to bandage some wounds. Kevin Newman, who got a lot of run last year, racked up some more. You mentioned Ciccone in the trade. Guillorme's gone. Brandon Hughes is gone. So, with that, Trev, the number one run-scoring offense from last season, what does it look like this year?
I love the lineup, as you know. I say that about a lot of teams, but again, we talk about this team being sneaky, underrated, and I'm going to get into, I think, for a couple of reasons why, as I've done some research here. But our guy, Corbin Carroll, at the top of the lineup, he'll be in right field. Ketel Marte right behind him. That is a absolutely dynamic duo at the top. Eugenio Suarez at third base, Josh Naylor at first base, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Still love him, man. In left field, DH probably going to be use it for a bunch of different guys, but we'll put Randall Grichuk in there. Jake McCarthy out there in center field. Gabby Moreno behind the plate, and Perdomo at shortstop. On the bench, they got Jose Herrera, Gray Kessinger, Pavin Smith. My bad. And Alec Thomas. I love Alec Thomas. I've always loved him. A couple guys to watch. Blaze Alexander. Obviously, Jordan Lawler's there. We'll probably have to get into what the Perdomo extension means for him. So we'll see who's on the bench. But the lineup itself, there's speed, there's power, kind of a little bit of everything there. So I like it a lot. What about, Jake, the rotation and the bullpen?
At the top of the rotation, you've been used to seeing Zach Gallen, the milkman. He's going to get paid soon. But I think he's going to be the number 2 this year behind Corbin Burns. Pretty electric 1-2 punch. And then it's Merrill Kelly, Erod, looking to get a full season under him. Brandon Pfaadt, those rosy cheeks in the postseason. But wait, then Jordan Montgomery, and that's 6. And then Ryan Nelson, your guy Yilber Diaz. And then in the bullpen, Justin Martinez, AJ Puck, and Kevin Ginkel. Ooh, when those 3 are on, okay. Ryan Thompson and Mantiply doing what they do. Kendall Graveman looking to find it. Young Dre Jameson, Shelby Miller fighting. And then a few names that we've seen. Kyle Nelson, Jarvis, Scott McCullough in the bullpen. Did that come out right? Which that tees up the 2025 Arizona Diamondbacks. So, Trev, the offense is easy to talk about. The rotation is a little more complicated to talk about, and let's start there because they brought in Corbin Burns. Man, he was the guy. Like this was a free agency we talked about for a couple of years, and the team was unknown. Was it the Mets were going to lock him in? Was it I wanted the Cubbies to step up? Would it be like a Braves out of left field? Like, oh yeah, that's what they do. No, the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the years are tight. The money's high, which that could be an interesting free agent case study as we move on. While there's rumors about guys asking for 14, 15 years. 6 years with opt-outs, and part of the reason was he wanted to be in Arizona with his family. And the fact that the Snakes had this money, we hadn't really seen that before. A little bit of keeping up with the Joneses with those guys in blue up north. That the Snakes, whose pitching numbers were down across the board last year, this should be an elite, strong unit.
Yeah, no, they're going to be one of the teams that, the Yankees, the Orioles will be calling to see if they can pry some of these guys off their hands, because they do have 7 guys for a 5-man rotation. They've continuously stated they're not going to go 6-man. So if you're talking Corbin at the top, Zach Gallen, obviously a full year of Merrill Kelly, Erod, and then the 5th is going to be Pfaadt, I'm assuming, but you have Montgomery there, you have Ryan Nelson. Like, they're going to have to figure some things out. Obviously injuries occur, but so far, they've been healthy. I'm curious to see, they got to trade one of these guys, and probably before the season, if we're being honest. Right. Like, you can't kick, I feel like you can't kick 2 guys to the bullpen. It doesn't really make sense to me, as we have roster limitations now. Like phantom ILing guys, like maybe they end up doing that. It's not really, you're not really supposed to do that, but teams have done it before, and you can hear my dog in the background right now. Bomber talking Snakes pitching right now. Leave me alone. So that's gonna be a storyline throughout the season, or before the beginning of the season, is what are they gonna do with that rotation? The overall numbers last year obviously don't look great. As I was doing research, there's this great article on Visson.com, and I don't know if that's where it started, but Adam Burke wrote it, and he was talking about at the field. What's the field called? Why am I forgetting that? Chase. At Chase, hitting with runners in scoring position was bananas last year. For both sides, not just like the Snakes. That helped bolstered kind of like where their offense was. Here, I'll read this to you. They slashed the Snakes last year 285, 364, 487 with runners in scoring position. So that's 130 WRC plus. And their WOBA was 359. That was 13 points higher than anybody else and that was the Mets was the second place. And it's the highest single season WOBA of runners in scoring position since the juice ball season of 2019. So the the Diamondbacks offense just went bananas in that situation, and the opposing teams also did that. It's kind of why some of the numbers are mixed up, but you have a full year of Merrill Kelly this year, and you bring in Corbin Burns. So there should be, those numbers should look a lot better, by the end of the season. And they went out and got Corbin because they really truly believe like they have the team to go. Obviously, they went to the World Series in 2023. They believe in this roster. They believe in the talent on the field. They believe they can win a World Series. That's why you go make a move like that.
Yeah, and I don't know if this was Talking Baseball in 1980s, we'd say hitting's contagious, because it felt like they had a little bit of that. They tapped into Josh Bell for 41 games because Christian Walker got banged up, and he had a 121 OPS plus. You remember they called up Adrian Del Castillo for a couple games at catcher, and he just mashed that. It felt like a lot of the buttons they pressed, even your guy Pavin Smith, put up some nice numbers, and he's a guy that they've drooled over for years, and maybe this is the time he actually gets the opportunity, is healthy, and it comes together. But yeah, Jake, you look at everyone on their baseball reference page.
He crushed it.
Who's listed at the position. So the people who played the most at any individual position, they all had an OPS plus over 100 in that hitter's ballpark. So I think the hitting is going to take a step back just because I think it has to. I think Jock with a 151 OPS plus DHing for a lot of those days. I do think you're going to feel that. I think the point is, though, and you could point to Corbin Carroll, who had a horrific first half, and maybe they can rack up anything you're missing there. I don't know. I think in the scope of a baseball season, a lot can go right, a lot could go wrong. I think, like you're saying, for the Diamondbacks offense, a lot went right last year. Where on the other side for the pitching, I do think between injuries and timing, or the runners in scoring position situation for both sides, there's going to be a leveling out for both sides. It's just, okay, if the offense drops to the fourth best offense, you still take that. Where the pitching, it feels like names on paper, this could be a top 5 pitching staff, and now you're talking about one of the best teams in baseball.
I think we are talking about one of the best teams in baseball. I agree. Like, there should be some natural regression as far as the offense and runners in scoring position. That could just be like just a weird year, just when they got hot. Chase Field used to be a very much so a hitter's park, and now Park Factor has it like basically baseline, like 100 Park Factor. So right smack dab, neutral, I guess you'd call it. Obviously a full year. If Corbin Carroll changed his batting stance, he's trying to stay healthy this year. If he is who he was his rookie year throughout the year, I think that's where they pick up a lot of some of the offense they lost from a Jock and a Christian Walker leaving. I do think that Josh Naylor is such a great fit for that team. Like, I really like that trade for them. I like the energy that he brings, because this Snakes team does have that. And Christian Walker was a big part of that. I don't think he's a big rah-rah guy, but he's like kind of like a show pony. Like, he's kind of like your guy, top step. And this is Josh Naylor is that. So, I don't know if you're going to get the same exact production from Josh Naylor, but I do think that he will fit in well there. I think he's going to hit for power there. And then I also do think that he passes the vibe test, Jake, which is big on our program here. I'm very excited about this team. I like the Geraldo Perdomo deal. You lock him up, him and Marte working together for the foreseeable future. Probably pushes Lawler to third base at some point. He's a young kid we've seen up, and they truly believe in him. So I believe this is Eugenio's last year. And then all of a sudden you can be looking at, an infield of Lawler, Perdomo, and Marte and be like, oh my gosh, this is one of the most steady, dynamic infields in all of baseball. Like, this is, I think the Diamondbacks have done it right. I think they have homegrown talent. I think they've made trades. They've signed big free agents. They've kind of done a little bit of everything. And they've developed a really nice, I'll call it battle-tested roster. They play in a very difficult division. Yeah. They put it on the Dodgers. That was in 2023. Do you remember that series when they just came out
Sure
and
do.
banged Kershaw around a little bit?
Lance
It
Lynn.
was a bad year for them last year, and they won 89 games.
Right. Okay. I like that.
I don't know if I call it a bad year, but I don't think they played up to their potential.
It never felt like they clicked.
No.
And they even, they limped down the stretch a little bit. I think their last 30 games, they were a game under 500. That if they were a game over 500, who we're talking about the Diamondbacks being back in the playoffs where they had success the year before. It is a big one for the Snakes. Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, upcoming free agencies. Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. Jordan Montgomery, we'll see as we record this. Who knows? There could be a couple roster moves for these guys. I mean, we're talking about 3 potential starting pitcher in your corner infield. That this is a big pivot year for the Snakes, and I'm at the same time now knowing that they had that Corbin Burnes money, and Arizona for me. I guess people may have not wanted this, but here we are. Phoenix Scottsdale has blown up. Phoenix Scottsdale has changed as a city in the past 20 years. That it's a huge sports town. The Snakes got to feel what World Series money feels like recently. Their owner has pockets that, I guess in this question, and Dalton, who is our stats research guy, he is a genuine Diamondbacks fan. Diamondbacks were nice to me, so I've supported them. Like that's that whole relationship. Dalton's a diehard that I could see him looking at this and being like, damn, let's see what happens. Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Naylor, Suarez, those guys get paid money now that even if, however this season goes, you should be able to backfill them with different money. Or, like you said, they have some young guys on the way that I still feel like the Diamondbacks have this reputation of kind of crazy uniforms sometimes. Like Josh Naylor's going to be covered in teal, and that's going to be exciting to see. They're dealing with the Dodgers, who are set up more than a team's been set up the past 30 years. The Padres, who were like America's team, and now they're trying to figure things out right now. That you're right, Trevitt. They won 89 games last year, and it felt like a lackluster year.
They just started off really poorly, and it kind of coincided with Corbin Carroll. He had a slow start to the season. I believe, let's see.
Their pitching was banged up too.
They went 11-16 in April, 11-15 in May, and then they started getting the ball rolling after that. And again, I think that a lot of it has to do with the guy at the top of the lineup, setting the table. And he's back and healthy and got those big old shoulders we always talk about. We haven't even got to the bullpen yet, which I want to talk about. But I just think they do a little bit of everything. I think it is a complete roster. They can play defense. They can run the bases. They don't have a ton of pop, I don't think. I don't think this is like a team that's going to hit. I don't know where they finished last year in homers. I guess we had it up. But
yeah, I guess no one's. I mean, the only guy who you'd look at and be like, I don't know.
Finished 5th in homers last year.
Yeah, like Perdomo, but Perdomo racked up 3.5 WAR in 98 games last year and got a new contract because he's the guy that just flips the lineup for the other guy. Like everyone has pop.
They have some pop, but Perdomo's actually a great shining example of what I'm talking about with this roster. Like he's like an old school baseball guy. He plays shortstop. He bunts, moves runners. Like he takes good at bats. And he's what I think baseball is kind of getting back to. Like you need a couple of those guys in your lineup to wreak a little bit of havoc. You know what I mean? So they have the guys, they have the dynamic players like a Corbin Carroll and a Ketel Marte, but then they have steady, old school baseball players like a Perdomo. They have some wild card guys like a Josh Naylor who he might hit 40 there. I don't know. Like he could be, the power that we're kind of looking for. They just kind of have it all. I love their starting pitching. It's one of the deepest staffs in Major League Baseball right now. And then you get to the bullpen and they have weapons back there. Like Justin Martinez, go check out his baseball savant.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. Got to lock it in with the walks a little bit, but that's when you throw like he throws, like, what are you going to do? Obviously, that's going to happen. So they have him. They got AJ Puck. So you got righty, lefty, Ginks with the nasty freaking what do you even call that pitch? Off speed.
Man.
Off speed pitch.
Man.
Like, they have guys that have done it at the big league level, and a couple guys who are are still. What I like is when you have young guys that still are trying to get better and still establish themselves, like the hunger is still there. Like, no complacency is really set in for these guys. They're stacked, man. They really, truly are. And the Diamondbacks get overlooked because the Dodgers are in their division. And I think a lot of people put a lot of stock into the Padres because there's a lot of name brands on that team. But the Snakes are I don't think they're on par with the Dodgers, because I think the Dodgers have just kind of run away with the best roster in baseball. I don't think anyone's denying that. But 8, that's where they're at in our rankings, our team's rankings. I think that's low. I do.
Like you're saying, I think they could be a little higher. I think I'm interested to see the balancing act. Like, these are some weird stats we have. They scored 63%. They scored first in 63% of their games last year, highest in MLB. That feels like a stat that, sure, they
change from year to year.
They had a great offense, but that can fluctuate. 852 OPS with runners in scoring position was the best in baseball. I mean, that's a crazy number. And hey, maybe that stays, but maybe that comes down a little bit. They hit velo, 285 batting average on 95 plus. I like that a ton. Because if you told me that about a player, I'd be like, okay, that player hits velo. That's good. It sounds like the whole team does that. And then on the other side, Monty kind of got rocked last year. Like, that there's room for growth with this team. Even if the offense has a little bit of regression, the pitching should be coming along. And Trev, we've talked some managers more recently with these better teams. Torey Lovullo is one of the best people I've met in baseball. He's just a guy. He's beloved down there. Like, just kind of what you want from your manager. A man, but a sweet guy, but tough when you need it. Like, he's pressed every button. A guy that might deserve some more love. We haven't done a lot of front office talk. Mike Hazen, man. Think about everything we've just said about the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks went to the World Series. How about contract extensions? Ketel Marte may be the best contract in baseball. They locked up Corbin Carroll. Player development, Carroll. McCarthy broke onto the scene last year. Like, let's see. We've got prospects on the way. Bringing in big free agents, which, again, that probably goes to the owner, Ken Kendrick. But Monty the year before, Erod. Like, I think something's happening. And, again, maybe I am too close to the situation because the social media team was nice to me a couple times. But, like, there's a recipe here, and people are probably going to hate this. Golden State wasn't a cool basketball team for a long time. But the Bay Area got money. They got good players. It changed how you look at the Golden State Warriors. Arizona, the city has boomed. It's a sports town. It seems like their owner has money to spend. Spring training is down there. It's a baseball area that I think, I mean, this is Jakey philosophical. I think the next 30 years of Diamondbacks baseball, we're going to look back at them as like, they have the chance to change their whole team brand. And I'm excited for that.
I agree with you. And like, I think that about Florida teams too. I'm like, why aren't you guys better? Like, why don't you attract the best
ownership?
Yeah, I guess. Right. Like,
yeah.
There's no shortage of people trying to buy baseball teams right now. There just isn't.
Right.
There just isn't. I'm privy to some information on the Twins side. And like, they had the Ishbia brothers who are in Phoenix with the Suns. They had them and now they're out, but there's other stuff happening. Like, there are people that want these teams. And I do believe I'm with you, man. Like, Arizona has a lot of things. It's the taxes. They're low there. I think they're 4% income tax. And it is spring training. A lot of baseball players live there. Like Corbin Burns lived there. So he wants to stay with his family. Like, that is appealing to players. And yeah, now you start to put together a competent organization because that still matters. That's why the Florida teams aren't good. Like the Rays, I mean, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
The Rays are good, but they're not run like the rest of the teams. You put together like a competent organization with an owner that's willing to kind of invest money into the team, and then you would have a plethora of guys ready to go to these cities. So yeah, I agree with you. I like that you're calling it maybe the next baseball hotspot.
It feels like there's a recipe that a lot of other cities can't say. Has your city blossomed in the past 20 years? Do you host spring training? Do you have some recent success? I don't know. For them, and we've done this with a lot of teams, the division is scary. The Dodgers are going to be there, like too big to fail. It's what is San Diego? Can the Giants finally tap into something that I'm interested to see the over-under brought to us by the DraftKings Sportsbook. Baseball's here. Basketball is rolling. That basketball team in that city might be on a little bit of a decline. That's just more room for baseball. Football team, I don't know.
Didn't they lose the hockey team too?
That whole thing got messy quick, didn't it?
What's up with that?
Go bet on that at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code TALKING. $5 for new customers will get you $150 in bonus bets instantly. They're the home of NBA player props. So, hey, you go look up Phoenix, and you're like, oh, my God. They're steering that thing into the ground. Maybe some unders. I don't know. I think DraftKings tries to figure that out. Anyways, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code TALKIN. $5 on any wager gets you $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code TALKIN, the DraftKings Sportsbook. What's the over-under, Coach?
I hate it, Coach, because I'm trying to take unders. I've taken too many overs. It's 86.5. I know what I want to take. I understand. Like, I feel like it's a decent line. 89 games last year, but they got off to such a poor start. They've, I think, improved the pitching staff with Health and Corbin Burns. Lost a little bit of offense, I would say, but
yeah.
Also, Corbin Carroll stunk for the first half of last year.
Eugenio Suarez went on an MVP type run in the second half last year. Take that under.
I'm not taking the under, Coach. I'm taking the over. I'm not even going to wait for 3, 2, 1.
We both are.
3, 2, 1. Over. I think so too. I think this team could hit 90 wins. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I'm very, very high on this team. This is my Red Sox of the NL.
Yeah, it's funny how one game makes the difference of them making the playoffs, and then let's say they won their wild card series, and then we're talking about which the Mets did. Like, think about how hype we've been about the Mets because they made a playoff run and then they've made some big signings. DBacks were a half game away from that the year before they made the World Series, so I'm in. I don't know. I think I've been pushing Jock Peterson's agenda pretty hard, that lefty DH that can do what he does. I think they will miss that. That the middle of their lineup, compared to some of these teams, doesn't stand out like you were talking about pop-wise. But someone between Suarez, Naylor, Gurriel is going to have a really nice year because those guys have done that a lot.
But I do think there are some teams, and I agree with you, but I do think there are some teams that are looking to manufacture runs in different ways. And when sometimes I feel like over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, we've been really caught up in slug, and that's what your lineup needs. And obviously you need some slug, but I do think manufacturing runs is on its way back, Jake.
Oh,
that is, I mean, if you're a freaking old head, you just love to hear that. I do think, it's more about balance now than it has been over the last decade. Let's get a few guys, turn the lineup over, steal some bases, move runners, all these things. And then you have your guys that hit the long ball, hit extra base hits. I understand that, but that's what this lineup is to me, is balanced, can score in different ways. And that's what gets me fired up, peeps.
Trev, this is really dumb, but maybe there's something here. I guess you can call me out. I complimented Mike Hazen. But dude, doesn't this roster, the basic stuff, like what you were just saying, okay, the lineups, lefty, righty, and switch. That works. Like, everyone plays their position pretty well. That works. The rotation has righties and lefties. The bullpen has righties and lefties. Like, there's a lot of teams we come through, and it's like, you don't have a lefty in the pen. Like, what are you doing? That I don't know. The feel of this feels right.
It does feel right. One thing we didn't talk about, and we're ending the episode right now, is Brent Strom's out.
Yeah.
Brian Kaplan in. He was with the Phillies for a while. So we'll see what kind of changes he makes. Like, I mean, some of these guys are established veterans, so he's just going to say, do what you do. But to a guy like Brandon Pfaadt, like, does he make adjustments? Does he make an adjustment with Jordan Montgomery? Like, I'm curious to see how that goes. I think that's kind of a big deal in this organization. Because Brent Strom's been known as, a guy that's gotten a lot out of people. He's been doing it for a long time. And now you bring someone new in, new ideas, new way to analyze the data. Keep an eye on that. I think that's a big storyline.
And if I know my snakes, don't be surprised if Brent Strom shows up in mid-May, golf club in hand, giving some pointers. All right, everyone, let us know. Snakes fans, we play for rings in the desert. My goodness. Let us know what we got wrong.
Oh, there it is.
Let me know what we got right. Just got to trim that body fat a little bit. We will be back with the top 7 teams in baseball. Holy smokes. Subscribe.